day two of Kill Bill watching stuff. Um, I've made a list, a Word document, a text document, whatever they're called, which I should have gotten up before I started filming this thing. Where I can actually list all the films because I know I have to go through that website every time. I'm currently watching. I figured I'd start with the anime because there's only one other anime that I haven't seen, which you may notice is currently marked off because I've decided to drop this anime because it's pretty bad. It's called Kite. It's an OVA from 1998, and the only reason I mention this is because is that a motherfucking Evangelion reference? Whoa, bro, whoa, man, is that a motherfucking Ava reference? Whoa, man, an Ava reference? Anyway, yeah, this anime is bad and I'm not watching it anymore because it sucks. But it looks cool. There's some cool bits with shots of the neon city and some jazz playing, but that's about the only redeeming factor. Also, I can only find the first episode and it's apparently a 2 episode OVA, so that's another reason that I'm not going to finish it. But I'm going to mark it as done anyway. Oops, that wasn't the right thing. This is the right thing. There's a fuck ton of movies on here. Oh my god, I gotta count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 61, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 70. 70 movies. Oh god. Anyway, now that I'm recording, I'm gonna reply to that K.E. Anderson, if that is your real name. Hold on a minute. Ignore my ASMR video watching habits. Please, I demand you to ignore it. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do. Just don't know. Won't let me switch my accounts. Nice. Classic. There we go. Where is it? I'll get there eventually, I swear. Here we go. Tarantino is a hack. He is so derivative and all the sources he rips from are way better. His dialogue is so tedious and overuses exposition. Almost every character dialogue is disillusioned by monologues that sound like Tarantino. Also doesn't help that he is every normie's go-to for good movies. Paul Thomas Anderson, Harmony Korine, Darren Aronofsky are way better filmmakers from his Gen X generation. Okay, you've kind of... I'm sorry to tell you this, Mr. Anderson, but you've kind of fallen for the meme here. You've kind of fallen for the meme, and that's okay because I too fell for the meme, and that is kind of why I'm doing this. You see this second bit? It's every normie's go-to for good movies. Pulp Fiction is like the first year film student go-to best. Oh, it's like the, you know what I'm saying, right? Everyone who wants to pretend like they're into film, but it's like baby's first good film. Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill or Tarantino is generally how it's seen, right? But you know, I am relatively well versed in cinema. So hold on, let me read some of these things. Paul Thomas Anderson, Harmony Korine, and Darren Aronofsky. I've forgotten. I mean, Harmony Korine is one of my favorite directors. Here's my top 10 movies, and there's a Harmony Korine movie right there. So, I mean, I can't argue with that. But Darren Aronofsky, I think he did Requiem for a Dream, right? Hold on. Darren Aronofsky. Yeah, I didn't like Requiem for a Dream very much. I stopped watching it halfway through because it was kind of like Reefer Madness, but for heroin. Like, it was just really overdoing all the negative side. It was, like, a bit ridiculous how... Yeah, and I haven't seen any of his other stuff. I've heard Pie's good. I'll probably watch that. But yeah, I don't think Requiem for a Dream is as good as any of the Tarantino films I've seen. I think it was pretty bad, actually. And who was the other guy that you said? Paul Thomas Anderson. Let's look him up. Paul Thomas Anderson, IMDb. Paul Thomas Anderson. He did. I haven't seen any. Oh, I've seen Inherent Vice. Inherent Vice was pretty good. Yeah, I liked Inherent Vice. I saw that in the cinema. Yeah, I haven't seen any of his other stuff though. I've heard a lot of good things about Boogie Nights. Um, yeah, well, I can't really comment on that because I like Inherent Vice, but I don't think Inherent Vice is as good as Kill Bill. And I'm assuming I've heard. I mean, Boogie Nights is a comedy, right? Um, maybe it's not a comedy. I don't remember. Either way, doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is, you can't just say X is better than Y because it's art, and art is all about taste. And it's not like I'm liking Tarantino out of ignorance, is what I'm trying to say. Because I'm not the most well versed in film of all people. I'm not the world's biggest film buff, but I mean, I'd say personally, if you were to show a film buff my top 10 list, uh, they would probably think I was a cool guy. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. I know the Harmony Koreans, I know the animes, I know the Kurosawas. Royal Tenenbaums. I'm not sure about putting that one on because it's been a long time. It was my favorite movie for a really long time when I was younger. Like I was a few years ago, but I might. Thinking back on it, it seems to be a little edgy. I'm not sure if it's gonna stay my favorite in my favorites. It might be replaced very soon, but there's nothing else I've watched as many times as it. Um, so I'm really not sure what to say. Look, I got the David Lynch's, I got the Coens, I got the Blades, I got the Charlie Kaufman's, I got the obscure Japanese movies. I got everything. What else do you want? But what I'm trying to say is, I think that it's kind of like Rick and Morty. Actually, Rick and Morty's not a good example because that show is actually kind of bad. Uh, but just because a lot of people who are kind of idiots, like uh, Tarantino movies, doesn't mean the movies themselves are bad. It just, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't examine the fact that these movies attract that sort of person, right? Like there must be a reason why Tarantino movies seem to attract the like first year film student type crowd. Uh, Well, I can think of a few, but I don't want to go into it because that's a whole other video's worth of stuff. But that on its own isn't really a criticism, and I think calling him a hack because he takes things from other people's movies. I think, okay, let me see if I can remember this correctly. Sergio Leone, is that his name? No, it's not his name. Hold on, I'm gonna try and remember this. Is it Ennio Morricone? I think it's Ennio Morricone. Ennio Morricone? Conductor. Yeah, yeah. I'm right. I know my shit. I know my Italian score director things. Ennio Morricone. This guy. He did the music for The Hateful Eight and then afterwards had a falling out with Tarantino. And Ennio Morricone had the same thing as you, where he said that I think the quote was something like, what he does isn't filmmaking, it's just taking other people's films and stitching them together, or something along those lines. And you know that's kind of why I'm doing this, because that is what everyone says about Tarantino, right? That he just sort of takes his style of filmmaking is really just informed by the fact that he's seen everything and he stitches it all together. Uh, and so that's why I'm trying to see if this is true by actually watching everything that he has supposedly stitched together. That is literally the point of this series, and finding out if that is true. But even if that is true, which it probably, I have no reason to doubt that it's true. I'm sure he is, from what I've seen so far, from the movies that I have seen, that the ones that are crossed out on my fucking list, uh, yes, he definitely does take heavy. He's heavily influenced by these other things, right? But that again is not a criticism because even if it was 100% true that he just took elements from other films and that was his entire thing, he didn't even add anything, which is not true. But the fact that he combines, that is literally the point of Kill Bill. Look at this. Look at this. So you got like Once Upon a Time in the West and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and The Searchers. These are like, this is the thing, is like these aren't even obscure films. These are like the three uh, most well known westerns. Maybe the Dollars trilogy as well. Like those are like the most well known westerns, and he references them pretty uh obviously. What else? Like and then like it, he referenced Ghost in the Shell, not a particularly obscure anime. Like, I mean, I haven't heard of any of Battle Royale's pretty well known, although that might be more because of Fortnite now. Who knows? But like a lot of these aren't Citizen Kane, I Spit on Your Grave. These are Grease. I mean, a lot of these are pretty well known films. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm getting distracted, getting sidetracked. What I'm trying to say is, look at the if I was to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and then I was to go and watch I don't know what's something else I've seen from here, so I can do an accurate Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, and then I was also to combine it with the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, I would have no fucking clue what I was doing because those films at first glance are so fucking disparate. Specifically, the way that Kill Bill combines the tropes of a western and the tropes of kung fu movies and the tropes of samurai movies. I haven't seen any of the samurai movies that it directly references, but as you saw on my favorites list, Seven Samurai is one of my favorite films. So uh, I kind of got a rough idea of what he's going for there. Like I mean, I can understand the similarity. It's not impossible to see that those are similarities in terms of the base narrative, but the way that they're executed is incredibly different. I mean, even between Chinese and Japanese films, cinematic language is very different. The way the camera is used, just the directing style, is incredibly different. The general sensibilities are incredibly different. And then comparing that to like a Western, I mean, let's talk about Once Upon a Time in the West, right? Once Upon a Time in the West is crazy slow, incredibly slow. There was not a single slow moment in 36 Chamber of Shaolin, and I've seen a few Hong Kong action movies, Chow Yun Fat movies and stuff. There's not a single fucking slow moment. Tokyo Drifter, it has a very deliberate pace. Like all of these pacings are different. And like there's different traditions in all of these countries and cultures of movie that he's of like pulp movie that he's interested in. Clearly that's like what he's inspired by, but because of his talent is managing to actually bring these elements that seem disparate at first and deconstruct them down to their core, and then from there he can point out like, hey, this is kind of similar to this, and so through that there's some sort of cross-cultural thing going on there, you know. I don't know if I'm making any fucking sense here, but like, look, I don't know how much credit. It's like collage, right? Collage is still art. A collage is still an art piece. Just because it's made of other people's art pieces, recontextualizing them is still an artistic thing to do, and it's still difficult to do well. Um, I mean, just the fact that he took these Western tropes and sort of set them up in the modern South, kind of like how that guy wears a cowboy hat and has a shotgun, but he lives in like a trailer home type thing, for example, as like a small section of the movie. And then in that trailer home, they have a fucking sword fight with samurai swords, and then she pulls out the girl's eye like a fucking kung fu movie. It's like, you know, this is why people call it postmodern cinema. It's interesting to me because you can go down this deep. As I said, I don't know when I said it. I don't even remember when I said this, but if you want to, you can deep dive this like I am and watch every single film that inspired it, and you'll get more out of the original film, I assume, which is why I'm doing it. Um, that's why I don't think Tarantino's a hack, but I do think a lot of people misrepresent him, and I'm not. I don't disparage you, Mr. Anderson, for believing that he's a hack, because I mean I can totally see where you're coming from. If you don't particularly appreciate that style of artistic working where you very much accept the fact that um, every piece of art is just a mishmash of the art that's come before it. Well, for my music, I've had to think about this long before I started doing this series or anything. I kind of think about all my songs like that. I'm just sort of, I think I'm just mashing up different elements from other songs and but when I do it, it comes out sounding like something relatively original. I think, I hope. Um, and I think Tarantino does the same thing, where he takes elements from all these disparate movies. No one else is combining the tropes of westerns and kung fu movies, despite the fact that once the similarities have been pointed out to you, it's very easy to understand. Ah, yes, they both have like, it's obviously a masculine revenge movie about fighting and in a place where it's hard for the common man to get by and all this stuff. There's a lot of similarities there. But if someone doesn't point that out to you, I would never have noticed it. And Tarantino points that out to you, but never just says it. He does it by making a movie, which I think is a cool thing to do, and it's difficult. I swear I was just signed in on my fucking thing. Anyway, you said something, Mr. Anderson, as I'm gonna call you from now on, said something else about the dialogue being just Tarantino inserting himself and just sort of going on a spiel. Well, this is even more just sort of a personal taste thing, but I'm not sure if you can tell from the sort of videos that I like and the videos that I watch and make, but that is kind of my shit. I just kind of enjoy listening to people ramble about interesting stuff. Like the most obvious example from Kill Bill would be in Volume 2 when Bill goes on that spiel about how Superman is like a unique superhero because every other superhero has to put on an outfit to become the superhero, whereas he has to put on an outfit to become human, which is a very interesting point, but is also very clearly just Tarantino speaking directly to the audience. And you know what? That is completely fine because it is a film and blah blah French New Wave, it's okay, but it's been okay since the 60s to draw attention to the fact that you're watching a film in the film. This is a thing now that people do. It's called postmodern neo-Marxism. It's called postmodern neo-Marxist lobster cults, lobster hierarchies, postmodern neo-Marxist lobster hierarchies. Quentin Tarantino. There you go. However, there is one thing that I'm not a big fan of Quentin Tarantino for, and that is his weird relationship with Harvey Weinstein. I mean, you don't really become friends with a guy like that unless you also have some sort of dodginess going on in your own life. So that's got me a little weirded. That's a little bit of a weird thing to think about, but hey, there was never anything that came out directly against Tarantino, so for the moment I'm okay. I'm not gonna just assume that he did anything wrong because he was friends with Weinstein, but that it does put a little bit of a sour note over everything, especially when you see the big Harvey Weinstein Company logo come up at the beginning of all of his films. So yeah. Oh yeah, I remember now what you said. You said, Mr. Anderson, you said that the films that he rips off or pays homage to are generally better than the films that he makes. Well, firstly, I can pretty much assure you that he thinks that as well. Most artists don't think they're that great and are generally trying to introduce people to other art that inspires them because they think it's better than their own work. I'm sure he probably thinks that as well, and that's why he does it. But, for example, Reservoir Dogs. see if I can remember this. So Reservoir Dogs is apparently like a direct rip-off of this Hong Kong action film. It's called City of something. I watched it basically because my friend, who's a film buff, told me about this. How it's basically the exact same plot, and Tarantino ripped it off pretty much wholesale. Let's see if I can look into this a little bit. I think this is the most egregious ripping off that Tarantino did. Give me a second. I'm not well prepared in this fucking thing. Lady Gaga? No, I don't want Lady Gaga. I like some of the Gaga songs. What the hell does she know about cameras? Okay. See if I can find this. I'm just gonna switch hands real quick. Is this it? Is this it? City on Fire. So this is a documentary basically comparing shot by shot from City on Fire and Reservoir Dogs. Now I've seen City on Fire and I've seen Reservoir Dogs, and my personal preference, despite being a big fan of Chow Yun Fat, right? Otherwise I'm gonna look like a right idiot. Maybe it's not Chow Yun Fat and I'm just racist. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure I preferred Reservoir Dogs. I just thought it was better executed. Also, it's not a direct ripoff. The entire vibe of the films is quite different. I'm not sure how to describe it, how different it is, other than I would say just watch both films and you'll kind of understand what I'm saying. They're undeniably similar. It's almost a remake, but that doesn't automatically make it bad. I do think he should have credited them though, because it's quite heavily inspired. I think that he should have credited City on Fire, or said that it was like based on City of Fire or adapted from or something like that, maybe in the credits or something. So I'm not too sure about that, but I do think Reservoir Dogs is a better film. So again, it's all personal taste here. No need to get upset about me liking a movie that you don't like. I'm not going to get upset about you liking a movie that I don't like. In fact, a lot of people like movies that I don't like. For example, the biggest example, one thing that would have been in my top 10 films list a few years ago but isn't anymore is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I used to think it was my favorite film, but I went back and watched it again and just realized that Stanley Kubrick is kind of overhyped. Especially, I'm not hold on. I phrased myself badly here. This is going to get me in a lot of trouble unless I clarify. Stanley Kubrick is not bad by any means. Hold up here, okay? I watched Full Metal Jacket and loved it. 2001 is still a great film, despite the fact that it's no longer one of my favorites. I despite it being kind of boring, I still think it's very well shot and generally a good fucking film. It's good, right? It's good. The Shining, however, is the one I have the biggest problem with, because The Shining kind of, in my eyes, fails on every level. It's neither scary, nor dramatic, nor really interesting. Like I watched The Shining when I was pretty young for the first time I watched it I was pretty young, and I did not find it scary at all. And now going and watching it, it's still not there's no scary elements at all, which for a horror movie is kind of bad. But I mean, it's supposed to be a psychological thriller or a psychological horror. Well, it's not that scary, really. I just kind of don't care about the characters enough to be scared. It's all kind of ridiculously over the top, too much for me to even relate to any of the characters. Especially, it's very it's Stephen King, right? It's just kind of, it's not very scary. The ending isn't super satisfying. I mean, I don't like the guy, the face the guy makes freezing to death is just too funny for me to think it's in any way dramatic. He's just sitting there like making that stupid face as he's frozen to death. That's not scary, it's funny. Now, the question is this supposed to be a comedy film? But it's not that funny. Like Doctor Strangelove, I haven't seen all of it. I saw half of it a while ago while I was quite drunk, and so I don't really feel like I should be giving my opinion on the film. I need to watch it properly. But Doctor Strangelove is funny. Uh, I don't know what to say. Shining just isn't that great. I think it's pretty goddamn overhyped. Uh, I genuinely think the Simpsons parody of The Shining is better than the actual film, and I know that's kind of sacrilegious to say, but there you go. There you fucking go. I guess I'm just an edgelord who's a contrarian for no reason, except for the fact that that's basically the only strange opinion that I have on film, and everything else I like is pretty much goes hand in hand with what it's generally accepted to like. But I didn't like Black Panther that much. Does that make me racist? But I liked Get Out, so that counteracts it, right? That counteracts the not liking Black Panther. Get Out was freaking great, actually. Would recommend it if you didn't see it. There you go. There's my film stuff. This was supposed to be about Kite, which it turns out was just not very good, and there you go. Although I don't know if I should. Also, the way this film is related to Kill Bill is like, is it even a reference? Because the similarity is just that it's about a young girl who's an assassin and it's anime, which is, also what happens in Kill Bill. But you could just as easily replace it with Gunslinger Girl or something, and it's kind of so like it's not that much of a strange thing for an anime to say. Anime has a lot of young assassin girls. It's kind of a long running trope. Also, I think this show is kind of lewd. This thing is a little bit of lewdness going on here. Get that lewdness out of my anime. It's pretty well directed, but you can tell like the animation budget is kind of terrible, and there's a lot of animation mistakes, especially like looping frames and stuff. Like it's very cheaply made, and the audio quality is terrible, and the voice acting isn't super great. And also just there's this it's just not good. It's just not very good. I mean, it's pretty well directed, but it's just not very good. That's my review of Kite, or A Kite. But there is a sequel to Kite called Kite Liberator, which is set in space, from what I can tell. I'm also not going to watch that one, but that's there if you want to look into it. It's something. I might go and watch a kung fu movie tonight. What time is it? 1:09:24 a.m. Nice. It has a clock on my camera app. How very helpful. I could probably get away with watching a kung fu movie tonight. There's some interesting ones on my list. Maybe I should watch Master of the Flying Guillotine. That looks pretty fucking sick, actually, from what I saw of it. So maybe I'll watch that. Anyway, go kill yourself. I'm just joking. Don't do that. Don't do the kill yourself. I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson. I didn't mean to be rude to you if I ever came across as rude. I just wanted to politely disagree. I don't know why I'm not ending this video. I just, man, today's just been fucking weird. I woke up just feeling weird. I spent the whole day feeling weird, and now I still feel weird. I don't know. I don't really know what it is. It's like a sort of it's just not really a nice, pleasant, comfortable state of mind. Feel a bit nuts, a little bit nuts. But what can you do except vape? What can you do except vape in times like these? What can you do except vape in times like these? You can quote me on that.